G'day again. Welcome back to Dad vs. Son and Illusions of Glory by GMT. At the last video, we'd finished the first 3 actions for each side, and the Germans are starting to build up, as we said before, push the Russians back in the northern reaches, except for Tilsit. So that's helped them out a bit. The Austro-Hungarians have lost Czernowitz and some more troops, and in fact the only reserves they have left is these 2 lonely little things. They are not looking happy. If I can keep the pressure up on them, then things will be good, and that'll also help to start stretch the Germans down to give them a hand. The only other thing they're going to be able to do is to start taking on some reinforcements, but considering their troop quality is, excuse me, is already down on 11, and they'll lose 5 points as soon as they bring some reserves on. They can afford to bring one lot of reserves on, but the next one they bring on, they're going to end up starting down into the poor troop quality, which is going to make life even more difficult for them. So let's get into it and see what we can do. Okay, Allies. Roll an A, B, C. So their A was the Disparate Frankie, the B was the Albanian Gambit, and C is War-Weary Austro-Hungarians, which is a combat card. So what do we wish to do? So we've got a 2, a 3, and a 4 ops card. Okay. So again, we can't do much with the Albanian Gambit until we can get some troops down here in Lemnos. Once we can do that, then we can start to punch up and have a bit of a go. So we could follow up with these troops, bring them down to start taking out Schlossberg and Hermannstadt, which would be another 2 victory points. So I think that's a good way to go. So that would be at least 1 ops point. We could also at the same time bring these Premzel units over to Golis, which would then place them in between a pincer movement between Tarnow and Teschen, but I think they'd have a fair go at taking those on if they needed to. So that'd be 2, and we could probably punch down to try and take out 9 Corps as well. So that's 3. So we're going to do that. We are going to hang on a tick. Ooh, that would be cheeky. In fact, let's do something a little different. I'm going to use the Albanian Gambit card for its 4 ops points. Okay, so 4 ops points. So the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to move these units. The second thing we want to be able to do is to move these units. I want to place an attack from here down to here. So that's 3 of our 4. Diddly diddly die. Okay, What else do I want to do then? If I can do that, bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, bum, bum. And let's get this unit on the move as well. Okay, so first up, we have this one little SCU all by himself who can move 5. Now, let's see if we can make life a bit difficult. We could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I don't think so. I think what we want to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just give us a little bit up there. So that's the first one. These units here, I'm going to move the guard corps 1, 2. I'm going to move 12 corps 1, 2. And I'm going to move 24 corps down there as well. So they're nicely positioned. The units here in Plemsel are going to go into Golis like that and take that for the Russians, the same as Sereth is now Russian controlled. Okay, so the last is the attack. Again, we'll bring this over, chuck it there. Okay, so the Austro-Hungarians have 3. The Russians have 3, 6, 8. They are attacking into mountains. So it's a 1 shift left to the 6, 7 column. Excuse me. The Central Powers player has 1 combat card, but it is only good when a German LCU is attacking or defending. But we have 1 combat card for the Allies, but I want to save that for their next combat. So this is what we're going with, and there are no other modifiers. Righto. So we have a 4 for the Allies, and we have a 2 for the Central Powers. So they're going to do 2 damage, and we are going to do 4 damage. So doing 2 to us, we're going to reduce 10 corps, and 4 to them is got to be 2, 4 to remove it, which means the only thing they can bring on is a cavalry SCU, and they've been beaten by 2, so they have to either take 1 hit or they have to go back by 2. So the best for them at the moment would be to go 1, 2 and help at least beef up Schlossberg. Now the follow on from that is then that I can move 9 corps down to, Klausenberg and take it for the Russians. But 10 and 7 corps being reduced have to stay in place. Right, so that was a ops. I've got to remember to do that before I actually play, silly buggers. Okay, so here we go for the Central Powers, and they get a C, and the C is Russian railroad collapse. If they play this, it means -1 to the Russian national will. Replacement points cannot be spent to repair or rebuild Russian units this turn, which is very handy for them. And we set the Russian RP marker at the 0 until the end of the turn. So I think that's what they're going to do. Because the Russians have taken quite a few hits. So they need to do that. So we're going to use the event. Russian national will goes down by a 1. I think it's that one there. So our national will is down to 11 now. Our RP marker goes into the 0, and we can't take any Russian points this time for this turn only. So I'll leave that there so we don't forget either. Okay, 2 more actions each. Back to the Allies, and we have A and B. So we've got Desperate Frankie and War-Weary Hungarians. So I'm going to play Desperate Frankie for his ops value of 2. And we'll move that down there now, so I remember. Okay, and the first thing I am going to do is I'm going to put an attack in from Kilis to Krakow. That's our first one. And our second thing we're going to do is we're going to put in an attack from Sereth into Schlossberg. And we'll do this one first. So, whoops, knocking cards over. Hopefully you can see that. I'll bring it down this way for the next battle. Okay, so it's a mountainous hex. So the Austro-Hungarians have 4. And the Allies have 3, 6, 10. We're attacking into a mountainous region, so we go down 1 to the 8-9 column. The only combat card again that the Central Powers have is the chlorine gas, but there is no German LCU, so they can't use it. And the only combat card I want to use for the other attack. So simply our 8-9 against their 4 with no other modifiers, I believe. Yeah. And we roll a 5 for the Allies and a 3 for the Central Powers. So Central Powers will do 3 damage and we will do 5 damage. So 3 damage on us. I have to take it on the Guards Corps unit. And 5 for them. They take 2 on 12 Corps. They have to take the other 2 on 12 Corps. So it's gone. They lose another recruit quality. They're down to 10 now. They get their last reserve. They have nothing left to come in, and they have to lose one more, so they'll take it on that unit, and they've been beaten by 5-3, so therefore they have to retreat 2 or take another loss. And what they're going to do is they're going to go 1-2 into Hermannstadt, and I'm going to move 12 corps forward into Schlossberg and take that for the Russians, which is another victory point. So victory points goes back to where it started again on 15. And then I'm also going to bring 24 corps down as well, and the Guards Corps will remain. Okay, so that's the first. Now for the second attack. Okay, so what we have is we have 3, 7, 8 Russian points attacking across a multi-gauge railway. So they're going to take a -1 to their attack. And then we have these blokes here, and they have 3, 6, a trench and a fort. And again, they have no combat card they can use, but I do have one. War-weary Austro-Hungarians. Any CP defence that includes an AHLCU, which it does, receives a -1 die roll modifier, and if the defending CP units are entrenched, all trench effects are cancelled. Okay, so they don't get the modifiers for us to go left and then to go right. -1 AH national will if the CP player loses this combat. Okay, so they're going to have a -1 die modifier, and we're going to have a -1 die modifier. So as we said, they've got 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 for Krakow is 8. So they have exactly what we have got. And we both get a -1 die modifier. And they get a 3, and we get a 2, and both of those are 4 damage each. Okay. So no, they didn't lose it, which is a bit of a pain, but we got to use it as a combat card. Okay, so that's good. So 4 each. Let's have a look. First for these little buggers. And what they're going to do is they're going to take 2 off Kummer, and they're going to get rid of the cavalry, and that's their 4. And we have to take 4 as well. So we're going to take 2 off the 3rd Caucasus, and we're going to eliminate our Russian cavalry unit. And that is that. Didn't go as well as I'd planned, but it did cut them down, and that's the main thing. Okay, and I now have a blank space, which I need to use as a 1 ops before I can fill that space. Okay, so back to the Central Powers now for their 5th action, and they get a CDE, which is their King Constantine, Fall of the Tsar, or Austro-Hungarian reinforcements. And they can't do Fall of the Tsar because Russian Revolution has not been played. And King Constantine they're keeping for in case the Allies get Greece. So as much as I don't think they really want her, I think they're going to have to take some reinforcements. Okay. Okay, so that means their troop quality is now going to drop from 10 to 5. They're starting to run out of military aged manpower and starting to bring in the young, the old and the infirm. Okay, so they get the 18th and 19th Infantry Corps. So the 18th and the 19th Infantry Corps. They get Brudermann and Hauer Cavalry Corps. And they remove all supplied cavalry SCUs from the map board and put them in the reserve box. Now, that means this one and this one and this one have to go away and go into their reserve box. So they've got 2 full and 1 half unit in the reserve box. But now, Hermannstadt is totally open, which is a bit sucky for them. Okay, so Austria-Hungarian reinforcements, where do they want to put them, is the question. So they can put one in Krakow, and I think they're going to do that. So they're going to put 18 Corps in there to bolster it. So now there's 1 full and 2 reduced units in there. And then the closest they can get again would be Vienna and Budapest. So they're going to put 19 Corps into Vienna and the 2 cavalry into Budapest. And the reasoning I have for that is that this guy can come forward and help to bolster again. And if the Russians come down into this area, the cavalry get a bonus for fighting in the open. Okay, and that one goes away, and we are back to the last action for the Allied powers, and they roll a DE, which is their November events and Russian reinforcements. Now these reinforcements are accepted from troop quality. Yay! So this is basically what happened to the Hungarians then. And in fact I do... Sorry, I'll just make sure. No, so they lose them, but mine is not used as a reinforcement as such. So I don't lose troop quality for bringing these on. Okay, so I get I get the 1st Siberian, the 2nd Siberian, the 4th, 5th and 6th Siberian. There's the 6th, there's the 4th, One, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 4, 5 and 6 Siberian. And the Russian 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th Cavalry Corps. So we have the 2nd, the first, the fourth, and the third. Okay, so we remove all Russian cavalry SCUs and put them in the reserve box. Okay, so this one, that's slippery little suckers. Sorry, in the reserve box, not the replaceable units. So that's 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. Oh, I didn't remove these ones. Sorry, for the Austro-Hungarians. Did I miss any others for them? No, I don't think so. Okay. So, Russian ones, I think that's all of them. Okay. Wow. Okay, so that's Russian reinforcements. Now, where to put them? Where to put them? Okay, so still 3 there. Aha, so we can put a unit in Warsaw and bring it back up to 3 units. We can put 1, 2, 3 in Brest-Litovsk, which leaves 1 infantry and 4 cavalry units. So I'm going to put 1st and 2nd cavalry in Kiev. In fact, I'm going to put 3 of them in there, 1 in Minsk, excuse me, and I'm going to put the 6th Siberian in Minsk as well. So my plan for these units is to come down through here and take on their cavalry if needed, or come down through Romania, hopefully, and take on the Bulgarians when they come out and help them against the Turks and the Austro-Hungarians. Right, so that is the last turn for them. So now we have Central Power's last activation, and that's an A, B, C. A is clearing the Dobruja, which is flanky, attacky stuff, the chlorine gas, and war in Africa. Okay, now they don't want to use war in Africa because replacement points cannot be spent to repair or rebuild APA units this turn. Well, we don't really have any APA units at the moment anyway. So they'd be better off holding that anyway until the next turn and playing it then. So we'll hold that. Clearing the Dobruja is a combat card. CP flank attack attempt against a space in the Balkans receives a +1 die roll modifier when both Turkish and Bulgarian LCUs participate. Well, again, we can't use that at the moment because it ain't going to happen at the moment. And all 3 cards are 4 ops points, which is great. I think what we need to do is use one of these cards for replacement points. Now, German-wise, we only appear to need 1 replacement point, so I'm not going to hinge it on that. Austria-Hungary is the one that needs the most replacement points. And Da, 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 da. All three of those cards give the CP Allies 1, Austro-Hungarians 2, and the Germans 3 anyway. So it's much of a muchness. So which one is not going to do much good to start with? And I think we'll use the Clearing the Dobura card for its replacement points. So that is 1 for CP Allies, 2 for Austria-Hungary, and 3 for the Germans, taking them to 4. And that's the end of that. Okay. So we've finished the action phase. Attrition phase. And let's see what we got. Again, Turks are fine. These Austro-Hungarians are fine. These Allied units down here are fine. Again, Italian front, everybody is fine. Germans are all good. And these units can still trace back to Krakow, down through and into Budapest, Vienna, Prague. So everybody is good. Siege phase, there are no sieges underway. We just still only have the 2 destroyed forts. War status, automatic victory, no. VP marker is still right in the middle between 0 and 30 on 15. Armistice, the combined war status is creeping closer. It's on 25, so only 15 away from armistice. War commitment levels, everybody is on total war, so that doesn't matter. National collapse, nobody else has collapsed, though they're starting to get there. The national will, the lowest national will at the moment is the Germans on 8, the Austro-Hungarians on 9, the Russians on 11, so that's not a hassle. Russian Revolution is no. Replacements, okay, so this 0 Russian marker can come off now. CP Allies for 1, but again, they don't have anybody other than the Turks, who haven't used anything yet. Austria-Hungary gets 2 replacement points, which is not enough to bring a core back onto the board. So at the moment, the greatest danger they have is up here in Krakow. So they're going to use it to fix up these 2 units. And then lucky last is the Germans with 4 RP. I'll put their thing back on 1. And they'll use 1 for the 1st Reserve Infantry Corps. And that is it. They don't have any replaceable counters to come up into the reserve box or anything else. So the rest are just a little bit of a waste, which is better than not having enough. Okay, strategy cards, discard combat cards. So the Allies have no combat cards to discard. Our B stack, or our B card, is still blank. We can only get a card back there when we do a 1 ops action. The Germans have 1 combat card now, which is their chlorine gas. So again, odd number stay, even number go. It's a 4, so it's going to go. And we'll put a card in there. Draw cards. there are no cards to draw, and then we have discard, the reshuffle, and we've got these two cards that were open for a turn. So the Russian Railroad Collapse goes away. The Mackinson one I still want to just keep, simply because it just reminds me that anybody stacked with them, with him, are activated as one nationality and can negate one space of retreat after combat. So keep that as a reminder, but it doesn't get back into the stack, so it doesn't matter. And then the last thing is ready for the next turn, which is the mandatory offensive, and we have a 2+1 is 3 for the Allies, which is Britain, France, but we don't have them, so that's not going to happen. But we do have the French leader, don't we? Ooh, yeah. And we do have the Greek, British. Okay, so yes, we will have to. So Britain, France, and a 5, which becomes a 6, which is Austria-Hungary against Italy. And it may well be that Austria-Hungary has to pull a lot of these troops out of the Italian front, leave some blocking forces in the Tyrol and Carniola to try and get some troops up here to do something to the Russians. And that's that. So I'm going to stop the video now at 36 odd minutes, and I will reset these before we come back. So again, thanks very much. Take care. Bye for now.